You are welcome again to another episode of HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. R. Kelly may have been denied a win at the Chicago Court of Appeals, but what does this mean for his case and fate? It's for cases like his that the New York Supreme Court was established on the 4th of March in the year 1789. While Article 3 of the Constitution of the United States of America establishes the federal judiciary, Section 1 states that the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. This Supreme Court is not obligated to listen to all cases brought to its table. In fact, they only listen to between 100 and 150 cases from the over 7,000 cases that it is asked to review each year. The beauty with this approach is that it eliminates any possible bias that could have arisen from the physical interactions and exchanges during court hearings. The Supreme Court will only look at the facts of the case and make a decision based on this. According to attorney Jennifer Bonjean, if the Chicago Appeal Court thinks that they can malice R. Kelly and get away with it so easily, they are wrong, because this case is now going to the Supreme Court, and R. Kelly will more than likely get a ruling in his favor. In fact, Bonjean did say the fight for R. Kelly's freedom has just started. According to her post on X, she was not surprised by the appeal court's decision but was also very disappointed by the same. And indeed, she has all the reasons to be disappointed, considering there are not just a few nodes but several from where anyone would have expected the appeal court to catch the government in the wrong and acquit R. Kelly for the corresponding charges. However, by ignoring all these and upholding both verdicts along with the 20-year sentence, the appeal judges are trying to tell the world that they did not see any importance in the statutes of limitations, which applied back in the years when the state's crimes were allegedly committed and duly expired years before R. Kelly was indicted in 2019. It means they didn't give a damn what the standard sentencing guidelines said, information which should have guided the Chicago federal judge in arriving at the appropriate sentence for the alleged crimes, even though these were also contestable with the limitations argument. It also means that the Court of Appeals did not notice the game that was used by the government when they encouraged the publishing of the surviving R. Kelly documentary as a tool of prejudice against the R&B King, to the point of charging and imprisoning anyone that attempted to stop it. The loopholes were just too many for the appeal judges to pretend not to have noticed. Statutes of limitations were introduced into the U.S. Constitution for various reasons, all important, but the most important being to protect defendants, considering that by the time a stale claim is litigated, the defendant may have lost most of the evidence they could use to defend themselves. Now this cannot be overlooked and ignored at all. In R. Kelly's case, for example, while he managed to retrieve text message evidence showing that Azriel Clary's mother had been messaging him and pretending to be the adult daughter sharing suggesting messages with him, when it came to the Chicago accusers, he could have already lost so much information he would have used in his defense. Choosing to put the statutes of limitation aside was therefore a wrong and malicious move by the appeal court judges. It's even shocking to learn that their argument was not that these had been repealed and an amendment that rested the limitations, but to suggest R. Kelly, who was duly found not guilty for obstruction of justice, had actually obstructed his accusers from suing was a joke. By choosing to make this conclusion, which was uninformed by evidence, the appeal judges seemingly agreed with the Chicago federal judge's inference of guilt, where there was no evidence that R. Kelly in fact did obstruct justice in any way. All these are the reasons why attorney Jennifer Bonjean has come out strongly to speak against the appeal court's decision to uphold the trial court's judgment and sentence, and to make it clear that the fight for R. Kelly's freedom has in fact just started. The matter is going to have to be looked at by the Supreme Court, who she trusts will not tolerate any decisions that were made short of evidence, and any processes the trial court engaged in that violate the laws of this nation. Known for respecting the laws of this land, the Supreme Court will not tolerate any nonsense, and the right decision will eventually be taken. There has been criticism that there are in fact many other important matters attorney Jennifer Bonjean could have raised during the Chicago appeal, and indeed there are just so many issues with the Chicago case against R. Kelly. It's however important to note that the issues Bonjean picked out were the most obvious that the appeal court shouldn't have ignored, even if they blatantly did, And this is why it's going to cost the entire Department of Justice, whose primary mandate is to protect the laws of this great nation. If the DOJ did not have multiple cases where they were carried away by sentiment or simply maliciously issued wrongful sentences to African American defendants like they did Jack Johnson as early as 1912, moreover using the very same vague laws being used against R. Kelly, maybe they would have a case against critics who think that history is simply repeating itself. The fact that it had to take over 100 years for the US government to indirectly apologize for the act of racial discrimination and for laws that target this particular community is in itself a shame. It's only a few years back in 2018 when President Donald Trump pardoned the heavyweight boxing champion for what many now term as a racially motivated injustice. The president himself described him as a great fighter who had a tough life, and explained the incident, suggesting it took place at a time when the US was experiencing tremendous racial tension. A law-abiding government may actually find the president's comments binding and deserving for an apology with compensation for the life and career which were destroyed. We therefore cannot rule out the possibility of the same happening to R. Kelly, even if we wanted so much to imagine we could be wrong about this. It's just a government that has done it before, which is simply doing it again together with the same Department of Justice that helped back in 1912. The critics are not saying R. Kelly is sinless, but all they are saying is there are excesses that the government together with the DOJ exercised, and for these they need closure through a reduction in R. Kelly's penalties if not a complete acquittal. If R. Kelly committed any crime, he should be punished for only that, but not negotiating longer sentences than should be, or ignoring statutes of limitations that existed back then and later expired. According to Joanne Shields, this is so unfair. These appeal judges must have been paid to keep R. Kelly in prison, and it's not fair. They paid people to lie on the stand and lock him up, and now they seem to have paid more to keep him in prison. If Americans can't trust their system, then there is nothing we are left with. Whoever is behind this needs to be locked up, but sadly this never happens. Even when Jack Johnson was pardoned, the government did not declare him innocent, even though this was the president's opinion and that of many other people who have cared to follow the story. We need R. Kelly free again. If you wish to take part in a live interview on this channel discussing any of these topics, let us know by emailing us on sashahnnewsroom@gmail.com for scheduling. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say? To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.